The Wells Fargo Bank branch manager in downtown San Francisco watched security footage for the third time, trying to understand what he was seeing. At 2:47 p.m. on Thursday, March 14, 2024, a woman entered the bank, approached the private wealth management counter, and requested access to account 47298834, belonging to Victoria Chen, a tech executive worth approximately $12 million. The woman presented a driver's license. The photo matched her face perfectly. The bank's AI-powered facial recognition system, the same technology trusted by airports, border security, and government facilities, scanned her features and confirmed a 98.7% biometric match to Victoria Chen's account profile photo. The system analyzed 47 unique facial landmarks: bone structure, eye spacing, nose shape, jawline, ear position. Everything matched. The private banker, following protocol, asked security questions. The woman answered correctly: Victoria's mother's maiden name, her first pet's name, the street she grew up on. All correct. The banker, satisfied by both the facial recognition match and the verbal verification, granted access to the account. The woman requested a wire transfer, $4.7 million to an offshore account in the Cayman Islands. A large sum, but Victoria Chen frequently made international business transfers. The banker processed the request. The money left Wells Fargo at 2:52 p.m., 5 minutes, clean, professional, completely within protocol. But Victoria Chen was in a meeting at her office in Palo Alto, 35 miles away, completely unaware that her bank account was being drained. She had never been to that Wells Fargo branch. She had never authorized any wire transfer. She had never met the woman who walked into the bank wearing her face. Because the woman at the bank wasn't Victoria Chen. She was 28-year-old Maya Rodriguez, a graphic designer and 3D printing enthusiast from Oakland, who had spent 6 months perfecting a technology that would expose one of the most critical vulnerabilities in modern security. Facial recognition systems can be fooled by a sufficiently sophisticated mask. Maya had scraped 2,847 photos of Victoria Chen from Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. Photos showing Victoria from every angle: selfies, professional headshots, candid party pictures, vacation photos. Using photogrammetry software, Maya constructed a precise 3D model of Victoria's face. Then, using a high-resolution 3D printer and silicone casting techniques borrowed from Hollywood special effects studios, she created a mask so realistic it fooled both human observation and AI facial recognition. The mask cost $340 to produce. It took 47 hours to print and cure, and it unlocked $4.7 million. Maya was caught 6 days later, trying to board a flight to Mexico City with $180,000 in cash and detailed instructions for creating facial recognition bypass masks. The investigation revealed she'd already sold the technique to 14 other criminals, sparking a wave of identity theft crimes across North America that exploited a security system millions of people trusted with their lives. Core question: when facial recognition technology, the system protecting your bank account, your phone, your home security, your national borders, can be defeated by a $340 mask made from photos you posted online, how secure are you really? The security footage was perfect. Crystal clear 4K resolution, multiple camera angles, timestamp verified. The woman who entered Wells Fargo Bank at 2:47 p.m. on March 14, 2024, looked exactly like Victoria Chen, tech executive, entrepreneur, millionaire. Same face, same bone structure, same height, same confident walk. But Victoria Chen was 35 miles away in a conference room at her company's Palo Alto headquarters, presenting quarterly results to investors. She had no idea that someone wearing her face was draining her bank account at that exact moment. The bank's AI facial recognition system analyzed the woman's features against Victoria's account profile photo. 47 unique facial landmarks were measured and compared. The distance between her eyes, the curve of her cheekbones, the shape of her nose, the angle of her jaw, the position of her ears, the system's confidence score, 98.7% match, approved. The private banker asked security questions. The woman answered perfectly. Mother's maiden name Zhang. First pet, a golden retriever named Oscar. Street she grew up on, Wisteria Lane in Cupertino. All correct. Information easily found through careful social media research. Within 5 minutes, $4.7 million left Victoria Chen's account via wire transfer to an offshore corporation in the Cayman Islands. By the time Victoria checked her banking app that evening and saw the transfer, the money had already been moved through 3 additional accounts across 2 continents, becoming nearly impossible to trace. From which city in the world are you watching this video today? If you value stories about identity theft, biometric security vulnerabilities, and digital crime, we invite you to subscribe to our channel. My name is David Harrington. For 24 years, I've investigated cases where technology we trust becomes a weapon against us. This is the story of how a $340 3D printed mask defeated one of the most sophisticated security systems in modern banking. How 2,847 Instagram photos became the raw material for identity theft. How a graphic designer exposed a vulnerability affecting millions of people who rely on facial recognition to protect everything from their bank accounts to their national security. Victoria Chen built her fortune in cybersecurity. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Her company, Secure Auth Technologies, developed authentication systems for Fortune 500 companies, multi-factor verification, biometric scanning, blockchain identity verification. She understood digital security better than most people in Silicon Valley, which is why, when she discovered the $4.7 million theft, her first reaction wasn't panic, it was professional curiosity. How had someone bypassed Wells Fargo's security? The bank used military-grade facial recognition, the same system deployed at international airports and border crossings. The technology was supposed to be unbeatable. They told me the facial recognition system confirmed a 98.7% biometric match. Victoria told me during our first meeting. That's higher than the 95% threshold required for federal security clearance. That's not a close match. That's essentially perfect identification according to the AI. She pulled up the bank's security footage on her laptop. The woman on screen looked exactly like her. Not similar, not close, exact. Same facial structure, same skin tone, same hair color and style, same general build. The first time I watched this, I thought maybe I had a twin I didn't know about, Victoria said. But then the bank's fraud investigator told me something that changed everything. He said the woman was wearing a mask, not a rubber Halloween mask or a crude disguise, a sophisticated, professionally crafted facial prosthetic made using advanced 3D printing technology and materials developed for Hollywood special effects. A mask so realistic that it fooled trained bank employees, security cameras, and most importantly, the AI-powered facial recognition system that was supposed to be mathematically impossible to deceive. The FBI's initial investigation tracked the wire transfer through its complex money laundering route, but they couldn't identify the woman who'd walked into the bank. Her face was Victoria's face. The driver's license she'd presented was a perfect forgery. She'd left no fingerprints, no DNA, no identifying traces, but she had made one mistake, a small one, that would eventually unravel the entire operation. She'd worn the same shoes 2 days in a row while purchasing supplies at an art store in Oakland. A mundane detail, but security footage from that art store, combined with purchase records showing someone buying high-grade silicone 3D printer resin and specialty paints in flesh tones, would become the thread that led to her identity. That's when Wells Fargo hired me to find out who was stealing faces. Elena Cortez joined the investigation 3 days after the theft. She's our team's expert in OSINT, open source intelligence, which is a professional way of saying she finds information people don't realize they've made public. Social media profiles, digital footprints, the thousands of small data points people leave scattered across the internet. Victoria, Elena said during our first team meeting, "How many social media accounts do you have?" Victoria thought for a moment. 4. Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. I don't use them much, maybe a few posts a month. Can I see your Instagram? Victoria handed over her phone. Elena scrolled through the profile. 347 photos. About half are selfies, or photos where your face is clearly visible. Different angles, different lighting, different expressions. She kept scrolling. Here's you at a tech conference. Here's you on vacation in Hawaii. Here's you at a restaurant with friends. Your birthday party. Your company's holiday event. So, Victoria asked, so someone collected all these photos. They downloaded every single image where your face appears. Then they used photogrammetry software that constructs 3D models from multiple 2D photos. Given enough angles and lighting conditions, you can create a precise digital model of someone's face, accurate down to millimeters. Elena pulled up her own laptop, showing a technical presentation. It's the same technology archaeologists use to create 3D scans of artifacts from photographs. The same thing video game companies use to digitize actors' faces for realistic character models. But it also works for identity theft. She showed us a demonstration. A collection of random selfies taken from different angles could be processed through free photogrammetry software to create a surprisingly accurate 3D model of a face, complete with proper bone structure, skin texture, facial proportions. Once you have the 3D model, Elena continued, you print it using a high-resolution 3D printer. Then you create a mold, cast it in silicone, paint it with realistic skin tones, add real human hair for eyebrows and eyelashes. Hollywood makeup artists have been doing this for decades. Now the technology is accessible to anyone with $500 and YouTube tutorials. Victoria's expression shifted from curiosity to horror. You're saying someone turned my Instagram photos into a mask that fooled a bank's facial recognition system? Not just fooled it, Elena said. Achieved a 98.7% biometric match. The AI was absolutely convinced it was scanning your real face. Sam Reeves, our forensic technology expert, added context. Facial recognition works by measuring specific landmarks on your face. The distance between your eyes, the width of your nose, the shape of your jaw. A good 3D printed mask replicates all those measurements perfectly because it's built from a precise 3D model of your actual face. The AI doesn't know it's scanning a mask, it just sees the correct mathematical proportions. But don't these systems detect liveness? Victoria asked. I thought modern facial recognition checked for signs of life, blinking, subtle movements, skin texture changes. They do, Sam confirmed, but a high-quality silicone mask moves naturally with the wearer's facial expressions. The silicone is thin enough that when the person underneath blinks or speaks, the mask moves realistically. And if you paint it correctly with proper skin tones and add subtle imperfections, the texture looks real enough to pass basic liveness detection. I asked the question we were all thinking, how many people could be vulnerable to this? Elena's answer was chilling. Anyone who's posted enough photos of their face online, which is basically anyone with social media. Instagram alone has over 2 billion users. Most of them have dozens or hundreds of photos showing their faces from multiple angles. That's enough raw material to create a 3D model and print a mask. And a notebook listing her previous clients, 14 names, 14 wire transfer confirmations, 14 criminals who now possessed the knowledge to steal faces and bypass security systems protecting millions of people. The FBI launched immediate investigations into each client. Some had already used the technique to commit fraud. Others were still preparing. But all of them represented a terrifying reality. The vulnerability Maya had exploited wasn't a one-time glitch. It was a systematic weakness in technology millions of people trusted with their most sensitive assets. Sam Reeves spent 3 weeks analyzing Maya's technique to understand exactly how she'd defeated a system designed by some of the brightest minds in cybersecurity. Her findings were simultaneously fascinating and terrifying. The process is simpler than you'd think, Sam explained during a presentation to Wells Fargo's security team. Here's how it works, step by step. She displayed Maya's documentation on the conference room screen. Step 1. Photo collection. Maya used automated web scraping tools to download every publicly accessible photo of Victoria Chen. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, company websites, news articles, conference photos. Total 2,847 images showing Victoria's face from various angles. Step 2. Photogrammetry. She processed these photos through photogrammetry software, specifically a program called Meshroom, which is free and open source. The software analyzes how facial features appear from different angles and constructs a precise 3D model. Victoria's 3,000+ photos gave Meshroom more than enough data to create an accurate digital replica of her face. Step 3. 3D model refinement. Maya imported the 3D model into Blender, professional 3D modeling software. She cleaned up imperfections, ensured proper scaling, and optimized the model for printing. This took the most time, about 40 hours of detailed digital sculpting. Step 4. 3D printing. She printed the face model in high-resolution resin on a $800 3D printer. Print time 47 hours. The result was a perfect positive mold of Victoria's face, accurate to within 0.5 millimeters. Step 5. Silicone casting and temate. Step 5. Take into the tattooing casting. Using the 3D printed positive, Maya created a negative mold. Then she cast the mask in platinum cure silicone, the same material used for Hollywood prosthetics. This silicone is flexible, skin-like, and moves naturally with facial expressions. Step 6. Realistic painting. This is where artistry matters. Maya painted the mask with multiple layers of flesh-toned paints, replicating Victoria's skin color, adding subtle variations, veins, pores, imperfections. She attached real human hair for eyebrows and eyelashes. The final product looked indistinguishable from real skin under normal lighting. Step 7. Testing. Maya tested the mask against facial recognition systems before attempting the bank heist. She used smartphone face unlock, security cameras with AI recognition, even border security simulations. The mask passed every test. Sam paused the presentation. Total material cost, $340. Total time investment, about 200 hours spread over 6 months. And the result fooled a facial recognition system that major financial institutions trust with billions of dollars. A Wells Fargo executive raised his hand. But our system checks for liveness. It's supposed to detect if someone is wearing a mask. How did she bypass that? Liveness detection looks for 3 things, Sam explained. First, movement, blinking, facial expressions, head turning. The silicone mask is thin and flexible enough that when Maya blinked or smiled underneath it, the mask moved realistically. Second, depth, making sure the face is 3-dimensional, not a photo. The mask obviously passes this test because it is 3-dimensional. Third, texture, checking that skin looks like skin. Maya's painting technique replicated pores, subtle color variations, everything needed to pass visual inspection. What about infrared detection? Heat signatures. Body heat transfers through thin silicone. When Maya wore the mask, her own body temperature warmed it to roughly normal skin temperature. Thermal cameras wouldn't see anything unusual. Another executive spoke up. So you're telling us that facial recognition, the technology we spent millions implementing, the technology governments use for border security, the technology protecting sensitive facilities worldwide, can be defeated by a motivated criminal with less than $500 in materials? Sam's expression was grim. Not just defeated. Defeated reliably, repeatedly, and now that Maya sold the technique to 14 other criminals, potentially at scale. The room went silent as the implications settled. The FBI's investigation into Maya's 14 clients revealed the scope of the vulnerability. Each client had purchased her technique for $50,000, a bargain considering they now possessed knowledge worth potentially millions in successful fraud. 3 of the clients had already executed their own face-stealing heists. Case 1. Miami. Robert Chen, no relation to Victoria. created a mask replicating a wealthy real estate developer's face, used it to access a safety deposit box containing $180,000 in bearer bonds and jewelry. Security footage showed the developer entering the bank, providing perfect biometric verification, accessing the box and leaving. By the time the real developer discovered the theft, Robert had already cashed the bonds and fled to Brazil. Case 2. Chicago. Jennifer Walsh created a mask of her ex-husband's business partner, used it to authorize a corporate account wire transfer of $2.3 million to a shell company. The facial recognition system at the bank approved the transaction based on perfect biometric match. The business partner didn't discover the theft for 6 days. Jennifer had moved the money through 8 accounts across 5 countries by then. Case 3. New York. David Park created masks of 3 different high-net-worth individuals, used them sequentially over 2 weeks to access multiple accounts, stealing a combined $8.7 million. He was the most sophisticated. He'd even practiced each target's mannerisms, voice patterns, and signature style. Security footage showed perfect impersonations. He was caught only when he got greedy and attempted a 4th heist while police were already investigating the pattern. The remaining 11 clients were intercepted before they could execute their own thefts, but their possession of the technique documented in detailed guides Maya had provided meant the vulnerability was now widely known among criminal networks. Elena's social media investigation revealed an even more disturbing truth. Maya hadn't just sold to criminals. She'd posted tutorials online. She uploaded a video to YouTube titled 3D Printing Realistic Faces for Cosplay, Elena showed us, presented as harmless cosplay tutorial for making character masks, but it's actually a step-by-step guide to creating biometric bypass masks. The video got 47,000 views before YouTube took it down. The video was mirrored on dozens of other platforms, archived, shared, discussed in forums dedicated to special effects, 3D printing, and unfortunately fraud techniques. The knowledge is out there now, Elena said. Even if we arrest every one of Maya's clients, even if we shut down every tutorial video, people know it's possible. They know facial recognition can be defeated. The cat's out of the bag. Sam Reeves was already working with biometric security companies to develop countermeasures, but the challenge was enormous. We can add more sophisticated liveness detection, checking for pulse using subtle skin color changes, analyzing micro-expressions, requiring active participation like following a moving object with eyes, but every new security measure can potentially be defeated with enough effort. What about depth sensing? I asked. Using 3D scanners that map the actual contours of a face. Maya's masks are 3-dimensional. They have the correct contours. The scanner would see a real 3-dimensional face, because the mask is a real 3-dimensional object, replicating Victoria's face structure. Heat signatures. Body heat conducts through thin silicone. Unless you use very thick masks that would be obviously fake, thermal scanning won't reliably detect sophisticated prosthetics. What about asking people to remove glasses, hats, anything that might hide a mask? Maya's mask doesn't need to be hidden. It looks like a real face under normal inspection. Unless security personnel are specifically trained to identify high-quality prosthetics, and most aren't, they'll see a normal person who happens to look exactly like the account holder. The fundamental problem was clear. Facial recognition systems assume that if the biometric measurements match, the person is authentic. They don't question whether those measurements come from a real face or a $340 replica. Maya Rodriguez's trial became a landmark case in biometric security law. The prosecution's challenge was proving that Maya had intended to commit fraud, not just expose a security vulnerability as she claimed. "I'm a security researcher," Maya testified. "I discovered a critical flaw in facial recognition technology that affects millions of people. I was trying to raise awareness by demonstrating the vulnerability's severity." The prosecutor countered with bank records. "Miss Rodriguez, if you were a security researcher trying to raise awareness, why did you steal $4.7 million? I needed to prove the vulnerability was real. No one would take me seriously without a dramatic demonstration. And the 14 criminals you sold your technique to for $50,000 each. That was also security awareness. I was providing education about vulnerabilities in modern security systems. Education that included detailed instructions on committing identity theft and fraud. The evidence was overwhelming. Maya's documentation showed deliberate planning. Her social media scraping tools were designed specifically to target high-net-worth individuals with substantial bank accounts. Her client communications discussed optimal targets and maximum theft amounts. Her YouTube tutorial was titled for cosplay, but included specific instructions on bypassing bank security. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Guilty of identity theft, guilty of wire fraud, guilty of computer fraud and abuse, guilty of conspiracy to commit fraud, guilty of unlawful sale of theft techniques. Judge Margaret Wilson's sentencing statement addressed the broader implications. Ms. Rodriguez has exposed a critical vulnerability in technology that protects millions of people's financial assets, personal security, and even national security. However, her response to discovering this vulnerability was not to responsibly disclose it to affected companies or security researchers. Instead, she weaponized it for personal profit and sold it to criminals, directly causing over $15 million in documented theft and placing countless others at risk. The sentence: 15 years in federal prison, restitution of $4.7 million to Victoria Chen, forfeiture of all equipment and proceeds from selling the technique. But the damage was done. The knowledge existed, the tutorials were archived, and around the world, criminals with 3D printers were scraping social media photos, building face models, and preparing to bypass the security systems protecting billions of people. Legal reforms: creation of federal biometric theft crime category, enhanced penalties for identity theft using facial replication, mandatory disclosure of facial recognition vulnerability, liability for companies failing to implement adequate safeguard, ban on public sale of face replication techniques. Law enforcement training: FBI created specialized biometric fraud investigation units, training programs on detecting sophisticated prosthetics, database of known face replication cases, coordination with special effects industry to understand technique, enhanced forensic analysis of biometric security footage. But despite these reforms, the fundamental problem remained. Billions of photos already existed online, providing raw material for anyone motivated to create facial replicas. The vulnerability couldn't be patched like software. It was built into the nature of how facial recognition works. I proved the system was broken. If I'd just published a research paper saying facial recognition can be fooled by masks, no one would have listened. Big tech companies would have denied it. Banks would have dismissed it. The industry had too much invested in promoting facial recognition as secure. So you committed crimes to raise awareness. I forced the industry to confront reality. Now they're improving security. Now people understand their face isn't a secure password. That's a public service. Even if my methods were questionable, what about the 14 criminals you taught? The people who used your technique to steal from innocent victims? For the first time, Maya's confidence wavered. I regret that. I thought I was selling to security researchers, but I was naive, or maybe willfully ignorant. I wanted the money and didn't ask enough questions. Do you think facial recognition can ever be truly secure? No, it's fundamentally flawed. Your face is public information. Everyone sees it. Photographs capture it. Security cameras record it. Anything that's public can be replicated. True security requires something secret. Facial recognition offers convenience, not security. The industry has spent billions trying to turn public information into private authentication, and it will never work perfectly. Victoria Chen sold Secure Auth Technologies and founded a new company, Public Face, a non-profit dedicated to educating people about biometric security risks. Most people don't realize how much of their biometric data is already public. Victoria explained at a technology conference, "Your face is in thousands of photos online. Your voice is in videos. Your fingerprints are on everything you touch. Your iris patterns can be captured from high-resolution photos. Your DNA is in genealogy databases. All this data that's supposed to authenticate your identity is actually widely accessible. Public Face offers free tools, social media privacy audits, photo visibility analyzers, biometric risk assessments, education on multi-factor authentication, guides on reducing digital footprint. "I can't get my photos back from the internet," Victoria said. "Maya scraped 2,847 images of me, but those are just the ones on my accounts. There are probably 10,000 plus photos of me scattered across the internet, on other people's accounts, news sites, company websites. Once your face is public, it stays public. The best we can do is understand the risks and demand better security from companies that want to use facial recognition." She demonstrated her point by attempting to remove her photos from the internet. Even working with legal teams and platform cooperation, removing images proved nearly impossible. Photos reappear, get shared, archived, mirrored. Digital information is permanent. Despite arrests, reforms and awareness campaigns, face replication attacks continue. The FBI tracks approximately 40 to 60 cases annually, where criminals use sophisticated masks to bypass facial recognition. Most involve financial fraud, though some target physical security systems. The technology for creating realistic masks has only improved. Higher resolution 3D printers, now under $300. Better photogrammetry software, free and improving. Advanced silicone formulas, easier to work with. More detailed tutorials, harder to remove from internet. Faster production time, masks in 24 hours instead of weeks. And the targets are expanding. It's not just wealthy individuals anymore. Middle-class people with $50,000 in savings are targets. Small business owners with modest accounts. Anyone whose face appears in enough online photos to construct a 3D model. Sam Reeves now consults with major technology companies on anti-spoofing measures. "We're in an arms race," she told me. "We develop better liveness detection. Criminals develop better masks. We add depth sensing. They create more sophisticated prosthetics. We use thermal imaging. They find ways to regulate mask temperature. For every security measure, there's a potential countermeasure. Is there a solution? Multimodal authentication. Never rely on just facial recognition. Combine it with something you know password, something you have phone security key, and something you are biometric. Layer multiple biometrics, face plus fingerprint plus voice. Make it exponentially harder to fake everything at once. But that reduces convenience, which is why companies adopted facial recognition in the first place. Exactly. Security versus convenience. You can't have both perfectly. Companies promoted facial recognition as both secure and convenient. Maya proved that's a lie. Now we have to decide what matters more. This is case 19, the facial recognition. A story about how 2,847 Instagram photos became the raw material for a $4.7 million theft. About how a $340 mask defeated security systems protecting millions of people. About how convenience masquerading as security created a vulnerability that criminals worldwide now exploit. Maya Rodriguez sits in federal prison, serving year 3 of her 15-year sentence. The $4.7 million she stole has been recovered and returned to Victoria Chen. But the knowledge Maya released, the tutorials, the technique, the proof that facial recognition can be defeated, remains in the world, copied and archived beyond any ability to contain. Victoria Chen dedicates her life to educating people about biometric security risks, trying to undo the false sense of security that technology companies promoted for profit. She estimates her work has reached 2 million people, but 2 billion people still use facial recognition daily, most unaware of its vulnerabilities. And somewhere tonight, someone is downloading photos from Instagram, running them through photogrammetry software, preparing to print a face and steal an identity. Because the raw materials are public, the tools are accessible, the techniques are documented, and the systems being exploited are still trusted by millions. Maya was right about one thing. Facial recognition was deployed everywhere without people questioning whether it was actually secure. Her crime forced that question into public consciousness. But the answer, that your face is public information and public information can be replicated, is a truth most people still haven't accepted. Your face unlocks your phone. Your face verifies your bank transactions. Your face grants you access to secure facilities. Your face authenticates your identity at borders and airports. And your face is in thousands of photos online, available to anyone, with the patience to collect them and the skill to replicate them. The woman who walked into Wells Fargo wearing Victoria Chen's face looked exactly like Victoria Chen because she was wearing Victoria Chen's face. A perfect replica built from photos Victoria had posted herself, transformed through technology anyone can access into a weapon that defeated security systems protecting $4.7 million. Some crimes use guns, others use masks printed from your Instagram account. Maya Rodriguez proved that in the age of social media and 3D printing, your face is no longer uniquely yours. It's data, public data. Data that can be copied, replicated, and worn by someone else while they drain your bank account. When the security protecting your money relies on information you've made public by simply existing in the modern world, how secure are you really? The answer, as Victoria Chen discovered, is far less secure than anyone wanted to believe.